I play a lot of video games from just about every source, genre, and time period. I earnestly love interactive media for its unparalleled capacity to reflect human culture, so I experience as much of it as I possibly can. Today, I'm going to try out some fantasy action RPGs from the early 2010s and provide my critical thoughts. I was curious about them since release, but just never got around to them until now. The games in question are Bound by Flame, Kingdoms of Amalur, and of Orcs and Men. I hope you enjoy. Bound by Flame is an embarrassingly transparent, masculine power trip disguised as a dark fantasy action RPG. From the moment it opens, we're treated to our edgy, sassy, perpetual loner protagonist, who also happens to be the Chosen One, but he's not the Chosen One in your usual fashion. No, that wouldn't be cool enough. Instead of being divinely blessed by a righteous guardian, he was instead chosen by a demon of flame, so he can stand around brooding about how awesome he is and how only his archetypal party members could ever hope to understand his innate manliness. During your journey, you'll meet such lovable characters as Obvious Token Love Interest, Chill Bro who treats you nicely unlike all the other men in the game who are super mean. Like, really, everyone else in this game is an incredible, insufferable jerk for some reason. Then you dive into the combat, where you swing your weapons around like lightsabers, abuse the invincibility frames on your hyper-generous dodge, and wowee, this game is adorably uninteresting. The weird thing is, I've played other games by this developer. They're generally far more intelligent, cohesive, and respectable than this. In Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, you play the chosenest chosen one to have ever been chosen. Not only are you the only immortal human, you are a canonical exception to the very idea of fate. Everyone depends on you for everything, and you are the most important deciding factor in the entire universe. You alone. It's absolutely wild, and it starts from the word go when you hack apart trained soldiers using nothing but a rusty sword and your protagonistic gumption. The game is pure unfiltered fantasy escapism, and while that's quite dreadful, it is at least charming in its eagerness. Even outside of the juvenile themes and storytelling, things are still no less rosy in hue. There's a vivid and bouncy art style reminiscent of World of Warcraft, complete with similar dialogue and questlines. The combat largely consists of big, bombastic swings, thrusts, explosions, and ostentatious magics, with clearly telegraphed attacks and rich enemy variety, set amid a backdrop of gorgeous greenery. If you're looking to drop in a fantasy world, run around, and help people on quests in a gleefully generic setting, Kingdoms of Amalur certainly delivers. Of Orcs and Men is honestly as poetic and entrancing as its title may suggest. It's a meaningful story about the suffering of war, racial tension, desperation, identity, and what it means to truly trust. Concepts of companionship and camaraderie are baked into the narrative and gameplay, with seamless expertise being explored with rich characters, smart dialogue, and a highly unusual combat system. It's all rather impressive. This game portrays its heavy setting with ample sentimentality and sympathy, but never shies away from the grim and difficult life of its inhabitants. It is honest and unflinching, but also extremely kind. It is very rare that I'm able to stay completely tuned into a game's cutscenes, but Of Orcs and Men gave me more than enough to think about, and provided a pair of protagonists with real humanity and vulnerability, who truly need one another to survive, despite their reservations. This theme of cautious cooperation translates directly into the gameplay, which is a surreal mix of strategy RPG and real-time action. Styx is nimble, cunning, and versatile, but not particularly brawny, while Arkai is a massive mean wrecking ball who can barely control his battle rage. Neither of them are unintelligent, but they play to vastly different strengths, and they couldn't hope to take on the horde of enemies alone. The gameplay, then, is about reconciling their two vastly different skill sets into a cohesive whole. Right out the gate, it's not an easy task, even on medium difficulty. This game asks you to think about the characters as real people, to utilize their assets and talents appropriately, to consider the spacing, enemy placement, and the brutal reality of combat. It's refreshing to be challenged for once. Of Orcs and Men is a singular, heartfelt, irreplicable piece of artistry which has clear vision and the soul to see that vision through. Hey, you made it. We're at the end of the video. You know, it may not have come across properly in this video, but I'm a huge fan of fantasy. I love the superficial elements like sword and sorcery, sure, but I also adore its capacity to reflect the emotional truth of our reality. For a long, long time, fantasy has been a means to understand our world and its people through striking allegory and stunning poetic flair. It's too hot, and I'm too tired to segue smoothly from that into the Patreon list, so it's time to thank my patrons now. My videos are supported by the following lovely folks: Ipompus, Anonymous, Jay, Marth Sinclair, The Roses, Sam Anderson, some call me Anto, Waposa, Menthorse, Mike Hansen, Kay Storkson, Zuzu, Igor Oliveira, Hawthorne Bunny, and Folly Boyo. Thank you all so much for your time and thoughts, and I'll talk to you in the next video.